There are wounds we carry that have no visible scar. Moments when you were spoken over in a meeting. Times when your effort was ignored while someone else got the credit. When you were judged not for what you did, but for how you looked, where you came from, or what you didn't have. This is the kind of injustice that does not scream. It whispers. It seeps in quietly over months, years. And you begin to wonder, do I matter here? Do they see me? And still you show up. You put on the uniform. You type the reports. You smile when dismissed. You keep moving, not because it does not hurt, but because walking away with dignity is all you have left. Let's say this clearly. Injustice is real, and it hurts. But what do you do with that pain? Rage? Shrink? Pretend? Or do you rise? Not through vengeance, but through clarity? That's where Stoicism enters. Not as some cold, emotionless wall, but as a deep internal warmth that refuses to let your spirit be dictated by the ignorance of others. It does not silence your truth. It anchors it. It does not erase pain. It gives you the power to carry it with grace. This video is for the ones who've been overlooked, underestimated, or outright disrespected. It's for the quiet fighters, the ones who never get recognition but still act with integrity. It's for those who have every reason to be bitter, but choose instead to be still, focused, and unshakable, because that is stoic. And if you've been carrying silent injustice, today we talk about what it means to be strong in a world that's not always fair. This is the Stoic philosophy, and I invite you to subscribe if you're ready to grow stronger, wiser, and calmer, no matter what the world throws at you. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. Injustice is real, and it hurts. Injustice is not always loud. It is not always found in screaming crowds or headlines. Sometimes it's quiet, like being passed over for the promotion you worked twice as hard for, or like watching someone else get credit for your ideas while you sit in silence. It's when your truth is questioned, your presence ignored, your worth diminished, and no one seems to notice but you. These moments leave marks, not the kind that can be seen with the eye, but the kind that burrow into your sense of self. You begin to doubt your value. You wonder if you're invisible, if speaking up will make it worse, if staying silent is survival. That's the slow poison of injustice. It chips away at your dignity, one quiet insult at a time. It is not weakness to feel this pain. Let's say that clearly. The hurt you carry is not because you're too soft. It's because you care. You work hard. You give your best. And when that is not seen or respected, it should hurt. You are human, not stone. The Stoics never denied pain. That's one of the biggest misunderstandings about Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, they all spoke openly about loss, betrayal, injustice, grief. Epictetus was born a slave. He knew what it meant to be disrespected and powerless. And still, he found a way to live with clarity and strength. Injustice is real, and the Stoic sees it clearly. Not through rose-colored glasses, not through denial, but with honest eyes. The Stoic does not pretend the world is fair. The Stoic accepts that often it is not. But what they refuse to do is let that injustice corrupt their own soul. Because when someone disrespects you, they're showing you who they are, not who you are. That distinction is critical. Their actions, their ignorance, their prejudice, it is a mirror of them, not a measure of you. The Stoic draws that line and holds it firm. Pain does not disqualify you from Stoicism. In fact, it invites you into its deeper meaning. The Stoic is not someone who feels less. It's someone who feels wisely, who knows how to face the storm and not become the storm, who refuses to let external cruelty reshape their internal character. You can acknowledge injustice and still rise above it. That is not pretending it doesn't matter. That is choosing not to let it define you. You don't have to be a martyr. You don't have to swallow every insult. But you can choose the power of your response. And that power is everything. When the world tries to take your voice, keep your presence. When it tries to diminish your role, deepen your focus. When it tries to twist your worth, anchor yourself in the truth. You are not made small by someone else's failure to see your size. You are more than what they think, more than what they say. You are not the product of their disrespect. You are the product of your courage, your effort, your principles, your quiet strength. And yes, it's okay to feel tired. It's okay to admit that this kind of silent war can drain the soul. But that's why you're here. That's why Stoicism matters. Not because life is easy, but because you've been hurt, and you're ready to rise from it with power and peace. Being stoic in an unjust world is not passive. It's active, intentional, and incredibly strong. It's seeing what's wrong and choosing to be what's right, even if no one claps for you, even if no one thanks you, even if no one ever sees what you hold back to keep the peace. That kind of strength changes people. Sometimes not the ones around you, but the ones who are you. You change. You become clearer, sharper, deeper. The injustice may not end, but your inner battle does. You stop fighting for recognition and start living from self-respect. That's where the healing begins. Not in fixing the world all at once, but in choosing not to let the world ruin you. That's Stoicism. That's strength. And it starts by saying this out loud and to yourself. What they do does not define me. How I respond does. Chapter 2. What Stoicism is not. Stoicism is not emotionless. Let's get that myth out of the way right now. Stoicism is not about becoming a cold, robotic figure who shuts down every feeling, smiles in the face of betrayal, and quietly suffers in silence. That's not strength. That's suppression. And suppression is not sustainable. Real Stoicism recognizes emotion, but doesn't let emotion rule. Stoicism is not passivity. Many people here be stoic and think it means to stay quiet, accept unfairness, and never push back. That's not what the ancient Stoics taught. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor. Epictetus spoke truth even when enslaved. Seneca advised powerful leaders. Stoicism does not teach us to lay down and be walked over. It teaches us to respond with wisdom instead of reaction. Stoicism is not weakness disguised as calm. Some people use the label stoic as an excuse to avoid hard conversations. They say they're calm, but what they really are is afraid. Afraid of conflict. Afraid of vulnerability. Afraid of being real. But a true stoic doesn't run from tension. They learn to hold it with clarity and inner grounding. It's not detachment from life. Stoicism is not about cutting yourself off from the world, from love, from people, or from passion. It's not about withdrawing and pretending that nothing matters. That's nihilism, not stoicism. A stoic fully engages in life, but does so with intention, not attachment. It's not ignoring injustice. This one's important, especially in today's world. Stoicism does not tell you to ignore racism, sexism, abuse, exploitation, or systemic harm. It does not ask you to be above it all while others suffer. What it asks is this: recognize what's within your control and act there with integrity. Use your voice, use your strength, but do it in a way that does not destroy you from the inside. It's not spiritual bypassing. Stoicism is not the same as saying everything happens for a reason when someone is hurting. It does not invalidate real pain with cliches. It doesn't tell people to just get over it or rise above without first honoring what they're going through. A stoic sees suffering and still shows up with compassion and presence. It's not a lack of care. Being stoic doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply, just not about every random opinion, every judgment, every fleeting emotion. A stoic protects their energy, not by not caring, but by choosing what to care about, how to care, and when to act. It's not self-denial. A stoic doesn't deprive themselves of joy or comfort. You're not required to live in constant sacrifice. You can love good food, enjoy music, laugh with friends, fall in love, and still live stoically. What Stoicism teaches is not to depend on those things for your peace. Enjoy them, but don't need them to be whole. It's not perfection. There's no perfect stoic. Even the ancient masters wrote about their own struggles. Marcus Aurelius doubted himself. Seneca contradicted his teachings in his personal life. Epictetus had moments of frustration. Being stoic doesn't mean you never fall. It means you get back up with more clarity every time. It's not a mask. If you're using stoicism to hide who you really are, you're not practicing stoicism. You're avoiding growth. Real stoicism asks you to know yourself, your fears, your triggers, your weaknesses, and to meet them with courage. Not to pretend they don't exist, not to bury them, but to face them fully and honestly. It's not about control over others. Some use stoic language to try and manipulate or dominate people, to shut them down, invalidate them, or act superior. But stoicism isn't about power over others. It's about power over yourself. It's the art of becoming unshakable without becoming unkind. And finally, stoicism is not a performance. You don't need to prove to the world that you're calm, that you're wise, that you're above it all. Stoicism is something lived internally, not displayed externally. If you're truly stoic, it will show, not through your words, but through your presence. So what is stoicism then? It's clarity, it's strength, it's self-mastery. It's the choice every day to respond instead of react, to stay rooted when the winds of life blow hard, to remain kind without becoming naive, and firm without becoming cruel. In an unjust world, this kind of strength matters more than ever, because when you're disrespected, ignored, or harmed, your first instinct might be rage, or despair, or revenge. That's human, but stoicism offers a different path, a quieter, stronger path, one where you do not give your power away to those who do not deserve it. You do not have to pretend injustice doesn't affect you, but you can choose how you carry it, not by becoming numb, but by becoming wise. That is what stoicism is. And just as important, that is what it is not. Chapter 3. The Inner Fortress Where Dignity Begins. There comes a moment in every life when the outside world fails you. It could be injustice at work, betrayal by a friend, or simply the crushing indifference of a system that does not see your worth. In that moment, many people collapse, not because they are weak, but because they have no stronghold within. That is why the Stoics speak of building an inner fortress, a place no one else can enter, where your dignity is guarded, and your worth is not up for debate. Your dignity does not begin with external approval. It does not begin when someone finally acknowledges your effort, or when your name is spoken with respect. Those things are nice, but they are not the source. The source lies within. It begins when you decide, in the privacy of your own heart, that your value is not dependent on circumstance, that your worth is not waiting for validation, that no matter how the world treats you, you will not mistreat yourself. This inner fortress is not built overnight. It is built every day, in silence, in solitude, in the moments when no one is watching. It is built when you choose restraint over retaliation, when you choose clarity over chaos, when you refuse to let bitterness take root. Each of these choices is a stone laid in your inner wall, one after another, quiet, steady, strong. A Stoic does not build the fortress to escape life. It is not a retreat from the world, but a preparation for it. Because let's face it, life is not always fair. People are not always kind, and justice does not always arrive on time. But when you have that place inside where no insult can reach, no judgment can unseat you, and no lie can confuse you, you carry your strength with you, wherever you go. You do not owe anyone your emotional clarity. That is something you keep for yourself. You can engage with the world, fight for justice, love deeply, and still protect that calm inner center. You can disagree with someone, even challenge them fiercely, but do it from a grounded place, not a wounded one, because when your peace is real, it cannot be provoked. It is not performative. It is rooted. What threatens our inner dignity the most is not external disrespect. It's internal betrayal. When we compromise our values to fit in, when we pretend to agree to avoid conflict, when we lower our standards to gain approval. These small daily betrayals chip away at the walls of our inner fortress. And over time, we find ourselves exposed, angry, reactive, lost. But dignity can be reclaimed, not through shouting, not through dominance, but through integrity. The Stoic heart is dignified, not defensive. That distinction matters. Defense is a reaction to fear. Dignity is a response born of wisdom. You do not need to justify your existence. You do not need to argue with every critic. You only need to live in a way that is honest with yourself. That is where true confidence comes from. Not from ego, but from alignment. You begin to feel it when you stop begging for fairness. You stop expecting people to always act right, and instead, you commit to acting right yourself. You stop waiting for apologies that will never come, and instead, you live in a way that needs no apology. That is the beauty of the Stoic path. Your dignity is no longer a negotiation. Even in pain, you can hold your posture. Even in failure, you can walk with grace. Not because you are unaffected, but because you've learned to carry suffering without being shattered by it. The world sees this and cannot always understand it, but you will know. You will feel the strength of it rising in you. Do not confuse silence with weakness. In your fortress, there is silence, not because you are afraid to speak, but because you do not waste breath on things that do not matter. You listen more. You react less. You see more clearly. That is the posture of a dignified soul. You must protect your boundaries like sacred ground. The Stoics remind us that we cannot control what others do, but we can always choose who we become in response. When someone treats you poorly, it is tempting to mirror that energy, but mirroring disrespect only doubles its weight. Instead, let them carry their own burden. You stay clean. You stay clear. And in that stillness, you remember who you are, not who the world says you are, not what your title says, not what your mistakes suggest, but who you really are at your core. That memory is part of your inner fortress. It's a compass that keeps you steady when everything else pulls you in 1,000 directions. This is not easy work. It requires discipline. It requires patience. It requires the courage to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. But if you stay with it, if you keep showing up day after day, you will notice something subtle but powerful. You no longer depend on the world to tell you you're okay. You just know. And when you know, everything changes. You begin to walk differently, speak differently. You no longer chase validation. You no longer seek revenge. You no longer need to prove anything. Because dignity, once anchored within, becomes unshakable. That is the Stoic's gift. Not a life without suffering, but a soul that stands upright in the face of it. A fortress within, quiet and strong. That is where your real power lives. That is where your healing begins. That is where dignity is born, not given, not earned, but claimed. And once it is yours, no one can take it away. Chapter 4. Power of the Pause. In a world that never stops moving, the pause is a radical act. Everything around us urges speed. Quick replies, instant reactions, snap judgments. The faster you respond, the more powerful you appear. Or so it seems. But the Stoic understands something deeper, that true power doesn't come from speed. It comes from stillness, from the ability to pause. The pause is not hesitation. It's intention. It is not weakness. It's wisdom. When you take a breath before speaking, when you give yourself a moment before reacting, you reclaim control over your mind. And in that space, between stimulus and response, is your freedom. It's where clarity begins. Most mistakes are born in the space we refuse to pause. We lash out because we feel disrespected. We speak too soon because we want to be heard. We escalate because we're uncomfortable with uncertainty. But what if we allowed that discomfort to pass through us, without grabbing it, without feeding it? What if we just paused? The Stoic does not react. The Stoic chooses. That's the difference. When someone insults you, your emotions may flare. That's natural. But you don't have to obey those emotions. You don't have to give them the microphone. In that pause, you can ask yourself, is this response aligned with who I want to be? If not, wait. Let the storm pass. The pause is where your higher self has a chance to speak. Without it, the loudest part of you wins. Usually the part rooted in fear, ego, or pride. But if you pause, even for a breath, you invite in a quieter voice, the one that says, you don't need to prove anything here. Or, let it go. Or, not now. That's the voice of wisdom, and it only shows up when we make space for it. Injustice often demands a reaction, but wisdom demands a pause. You will be provoked. You will be misunderstood. People will speak over you, down to you, around you, and everything in you will want to rise up and respond. But just because you can respond doesn't mean you should. Not every battle is worthy of your energy. Not every comment deserves your attention. Sometimes silence is not surrender. It's self-respect. The pause teaches you this. It shows you that your dignity does not rise or fall with someone else's words. You can take your time. You can breathe. You can choose a response that reflects your strength, not your wounds. There's a hidden kind of courage in the pause. Because when you pause, you face yourself. You feel everything you were trying to outrun. The anger, the fear, the sadness. And it takes strength to sit with those feelings without letting them drive the car. That's what the Stoics practiced. They didn't suppress their emotions. They understood them. They made room for them without letting them take over. A single breath can change the course of a conversation. It can stop an argument before it begins. It can prevent words that cannot be taken back. It can keep relationships intact. The pause is not passive, it's active restraint. It's a decision to lead from within rather than follow the chaos outside. Pausing does not mean doing nothing. It means doing the right thing at the right time. And sometimes the right thing is to wait, to observe, to let more information surface, to see how you really feel once the emotion settles. In a culture obsessed with instant gratification, the pause is a kind of rebellion, and it's one worth practicing. You don't need to answer every question. You don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. The Stoic reminds himself, is this mine to carry? If not, let it go. If yes, then carry it wisely, with calm and clarity, not urgency and ego. Training the pause takes time. You might fail 100 times before you succeed once. You might still speak too quickly, react too sharply. That's okay. The goal is not perfection. It's awareness. Even noticing that you could have paused, that's progress. That's the beginning of transformation. In the pause, you find your center again. It's where you stop being swept away by the world and return to yourself. And the more often you do this, the stronger your inner anchor becomes. You stop living on the edge of every emotion. You start living from your core. Even in the face of deep injustice, the pause gives you clarity. It reminds you that your response is your power, that you don't need to shout to be heard, that you don't need to react to be seen. You simply need to stand in your truth and let your actions, your poise, your steadiness speak for you. The greatest strength is often invisible. The man who pauses before striking back, the woman who chooses silence instead of revenge, the leader who waits before speaking, the friend who listens before offering advice. These are not weak people. They are anchored, rooted, and the world cannot shake them. So practice the pause. In conversation, in conflict, in confusion. Let it become a habit, a sacred moment where you gather yourself before moving forward. It's small, yes, just a breath. But in that breath lives your discipline, your dignity, your difference. The Stoic is not stoic because he feels nothing. He is stoic because he pauses and then chooses with wisdom. That's the power of the pause. And in an unjust world, it may be the one thing that keeps you whole. Chapter 5. Real stories, dignity under pressure. Theory inspires, but stories move us. It is one thing to read about Stoicism in books, to memorize quotes from Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus. It is another thing entirely to live it, especially when life feels unfair, when dignity is under attack, and when silence might look like surrender. This chapter is not about ideas. It's about people, and real pressure, who chose dignity. Let's begin with James, a warehouse worker in Ohio. For 8 years, he showed up early, stayed late, and never once took a sick day. But when new management came in, they cut his hours without reason, passed him over for promotion, and gave his role to someone younger with less experience. His co-workers urged him to fight back loudly. Raise hell, they said. But James didn't. He paused. He took a week to sit with his anger. Then he scheduled a quiet meeting, laid out his work history, his loyalty, his results. He never once raised his voice. He never begged. He simply stood in his truth. 2 weeks later, he was offered a senior position in another branch, not because he made noise, but because he made an impression. His calm forced them to see his worth. Then there's Maria, a high school teacher in Arizona. One morning, a parent stormed into her classroom, accusing her of disrespecting their child. The parent shouted, called her names, threatened to have her fired. Maria stood still. She didn't match the volume. She didn't interrupt. She waited for the storm to pass. Then she said one sentence. Would you like to meet after school when we both have time to speak respectfully? That moment shifted everything. The parent paused, sat down, eventually apologized. The school board later praised Maria, not just for handling the crisis, but for doing so with dignity. Dignity does not mean staying silent forever. It means choosing the right time to speak. These people were not passive. They were precise. They understood something powerful. When you speak from calm, the world hears you more clearly. When you act from principle, not pride, people take notice, even if it takes time. Injustice tests not just your patience, but your identity. Take Aaron, a black software engineer in Seattle. He was repeatedly left out of meetings, often the only person not copied on emails, subtly but consistently excluded. He could have exploded. He had every right to. But instead, he documented every omission, every comment. He built a quiet case. And when the moment was right, he presented it. Not with outrage, but with undeniable evidence. HR acted. The behavior stopped. And Aaron stayed in integrity the entire time. As he put it, I didn't want justice that cost me myself. There's strength in not being provoked. The world often sees calm as weakness, especially when you're being disrespected. But what these stories show is that calm is often the strongest stance. It is deliberate, controlled, and most importantly, it is remembered. Let's not forget about Aisha, a first-generation college student from Detroit. In her senior year, her advisor told her she wasn't PhD material. He questioned her writing, dismissed her ideas, even implied her background made her less suited for academic rigor. Aisha was crushed, but she didn't crumble. She stayed quiet in that meeting, not out of fear, but focus. She walked out, gathered her best essays, submitted them directly to a professor at another university, and applied for a graduate fellowship. Months later, she was accepted with full funding. She never confronted the advisor. She never needed to. Her success was her answer. There's a difference between letting go and letting them win. Stoic dignity is not about backing down. It's about stepping up differently. It's about choosing your response so wisely that your very presence becomes the rebuttal. You don't need to trade insult for insult. You let your character speak louder than your reaction. Not every act of dignity gets rewarded immediately, but it always leaves a mark. Sometimes the people around you will not change. The injustice will not be corrected. But something else happens. You grow. You look in the mirror and know, I didn't let them drag me down to their level. That's not nothing. That's everything. Being disrespected is inevitable. Losing your self-respect is not. There's a quiet revolution happening in people who choose to respond differently. Not because they are afraid, but because they are free. Free from needing to win every argument. Free from needing everyone to approve. Free from the illusion that reacting makes you stronger. A true Stoic doesn't chase justice with rage. He stands in it with calm. These stories remind us, Stoicism is not sterile. It's not cold. It's courageous. It is not about bottling up your pain. It's about not handing it to someone else to fix. It's about choosing to be more than your circumstance. We live in a world hungry for reaction. Outrage travels fast, but dignity lasts longer. And those who hold their ground, not with fists, but with clarity, are often the ones we remember, because they show us what power really looks like. Every time you feel overlooked, underestimated, or misjudged, you have a choice. You can rise to the bait, or rise above it. These stories show the latter is possible. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. In the end, dignity under pressure is not just about how the world sees you. It's about how you see yourself. It's about going to bed with a clean conscience. It's about being proud, not just of what you achieved, but of how you carried yourself on the way there. So let these stories remind you, calm is not an action, it's precision. Dignity is not passivity, it's presence. And stoicism, in the hands of real people, becomes more than philosophy. It becomes a way of living and loving yourself with strength. And when the world disrespects you, you'll know. You do not need to shout to be powerful. You just need to remain grounded. Chapter 6. Practical Stoic Responses to Injustice. Injustice demands more than anger. It demands wisdom. In a world that is quick to react, being stoic may feel unnatural, even naive. But that is where its power lies. Stoicism is not passive endurance. It is an active discipline. It offers a framework, a compass for how to respond when you are wronged, not with silence, but with strength. This chapter is about how, not just how to feel stoic, but how to act like one, especially when the world isn't fair. First, pause before you speak. Always. The Stoics understood that your first reaction is almost never your best response. When we feel insulted or slighted, we want to fire back. But every second you wait gives you a reason time to catch up with your emotion. You may still speak, and should, but you'll speak with control, not heat. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Injustice can tempt us to forget this. Stoicism invites us to remember. Second, name what you can control and what you cannot. This is the cornerstone of Stoic action. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When injustice hits, a boss overlooks you, a friend betrays you, a system excludes you. Ask, what is truly in my hands right now? Can you report it? Document it? Walk away from it? Or must you simply endure it with dignity? Knowing the boundary between what's yours and what's not frees you from wasting energy on battles you cannot win and focuses your effort on the ones you can. Third, put your pain to paper. When the weight of disrespect builds up, do what the Stoics did, right? Not to vent, but to clarify. Journaling is not a diary of complaints. It's a training ground for your thoughts. When something unfair happens, write what happened. Then ask yourself, what did I expect? Was my expectation realistic? What virtue is being tested right now? Courage, patience, self-respect. Writing makes invisible emotion visible. It gives form to the fog. And once you see it, you can work with it. Fourth, respond with principle, not pride. This is where many fall. We mistake ego for strength, but a Stoic knows the difference. Pride wants revenge. Principle wants resolution. When you respond, don't ask, what will make me feel good in the moment? Ask instead, what response aligns with the kind of person I want to be? That's how you win. Not always in outcomes, but always in self-respect. Fifth, choose your battles with long-term clarity. Not every injustice deserves your full energy. Some slights are petty. Some battles are distractions. A Stoic weighs the cost. Ask, will this matter in 5 years? Will this affect my core values? Will this action bring more peace or more chaos into my life? Choosing not to fight is not weakness, it's wisdom. A soldier doesn't fire at every sound. He waits for the true threat and responds with precision. Sixth, surround yourself with people who help you stay centered. Even the Stoics needed counsel. Seneca had Lucilius. Marcus had Rusticus. You are not meant to walk through fire alone. Injustice isolates. It makes you feel like no one sees what you're carrying. But having even one person, a friend, a mentor, a therapist, who reminds you of your worth, who helps you stay anchored to your principles, is a weapon the Stoics would never have refused. Seventh, build small daily disciplines that strengthen your inner world. Injustice wears you down, not just once, but repeatedly. That's why Stoicism isn't just for the big moments. It's for every morning you rise, every time you meditate, reflect, walk, journal, practice gratitude. These are not just habits. They are your armor. They train your mind to return to center faster, so when the world strikes, you're already prepared. Eighth, don't confuse acceptance with agreement. Accepting reality does not mean approving of it. When the Stoics said, accept what is, they didn't mean like it or submit to it. They meant, see it clearly. Don't waste energy denying it. Start from what's real, then choose your response. Acceptance is not weakness. It's the starting line of strength. Ninth, act when the time is right, with stillness, not storm. A stoic response to injustice may look soft to the world, but it is sharp beneath the surface. It knows when to speak. It knows when to move. And when it does, it acts with deep inner stillness. Stillness is not an action. It's intention. It's knowing your why before you take your next step. It's standing up for yourself without becoming the very thing you oppose. 10th, let your example be your protest. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do in the face of injustice is live so well, with such clarity and character, that your presence alone makes the injustice visible. A calm, dignified person in a chaotic world is not invisible. They are unforgettable, and they shine a light without shouting. Being stoic does not mean being indifferent. It means being deliberate. When you are wronged, you don't owe the world your silence. You owe yourself your peace. That peace is not passive. It is protected. It is guarded by practice, by principle, and by the daily choice to not let your circumstances define your soul. You are allowed to feel, but you do not have to be ruled by feeling. A Stoic doesn't pretend injustice is okay. They simply refuse to become unjust in return. They respond with strength shaped by thought, not impulse. They protect their boundaries without burning down bridges. They carry pain, yes, but they carry it with grace. In a world where everyone is reacting, be the one who responds. That difference is everything. Reactions are loud. Responses are lasting. And when you practice Stoicism daily, even in small, invisible ways, you become the kind of person who can face injustice and still walk upright, unbent and unbroken. And that is the quiet revolution. Not with fists, not with fury, but with a will that cannot be shaken, a heart that does not flinch, and a mind that remembers. The world may be unfair, but you don't have to be. Chapter 7, Final Message. Your calm is revolutionary. Calm is not weakness. It is power under control. In a noisy, unjust world, people often mistake quiet for surrender, but a Stoic knows better. True calm is not the absence of struggle. It is the strength to remain unmoved in the face of it. When you choose not to explode, not to lash out, not to let bitterness shape your words, you are doing something radical. You are refusing to let the world dictate who you are inside. The world expects you to react. That's how it stays in control. When injustice strikes, when you are passed over, misunderstood, disrespected, the world waits for you to break. It feeds on your anger, because anger can be dismissed. But calm is undeniable. It forces people to look twice. It makes them ask questions. It reveals their chaos more clearly than any loud protest. Calm is clarity. It is depth, and it is rare. Your calm creates space for yourself and others. When you respond to pain with patience, to insult with reflection, to chaos with presence, you are not just surviving. You are shifting the room. You become an anchor for those around you. Others may not say it out loud, but they feel it. They sense it in your posture, your eyes, your voice. You give them a glimpse of what it looks like to suffer with dignity. And in doing that, you give them permission to do the same. This is not about being emotionless. It is about being emotionally mature. You are allowed to feel, to grieve, to be outraged, but you are not obligated to be driven by those feelings. A Stoic does not ignore pain. He processes it, slowly and with awareness. He asks, what am I feeling? Why? Is this feeling useful right now? Or is it leading me away from who I want to be? Calm is not the denial of emotion. It is the mastery of it. Your calm is resistance. In systems designed to strip people of voice, value, and visibility, choosing to stay grounded, to keep your dignity, is a form of protest. A quiet one, yes, but no less powerful. The Stoic does not scream to be heard. He becomes the kind of person whose presence cannot be ignored. When you live with calm integrity, people may not like you, but they will respect you. And that respect is earned, not demanded. Calm invites others to rethink their own behavior. When you refuse to respond in kind, when you meet cruelty with composure, something shifts. You hold up a mirror. Sometimes, the unjust begin to see themselves, not because you corrected them, but because your calm revealed the contrast. You don't have to fight every battle. Some of the greatest changes come from refusing to play the same game. It is not easy to remain calm when you are being disrespected, but that is why it matters. Anyone can be peaceful when life is fair. The stoic strength is revealed when it is not. When your back is against the wall, and you choose to stand without striking, speak without spitting venom, walk away without throwing curses. That is not weakness. That is mastery. It's not natural. It's trained. And it is rare. Calm is a discipline, not a mood. You do not wait to feel calm. You practice it daily, in how you breathe, how you reflect, how you pause. You become calm through repetition, through morning journaling, through evening walks, through learning to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. Over time, your nervous system learns that peace is not something given to you. It is something you give to yourself. You cannot control the world, but you can control your presence in it. That is the Stoic promise, that even when the world is loud, you can be still. Even when you're overlooked, you can stand tall. Even when others lie, you can stay honest. Your calm is not a reaction to peace. It is the foundation of it, built slowly, quietly, brick by brick. This doesn't mean you never speak up. It means you choose when and how. A Stoic may confront injustice. He may say no more. But he does it on his terms, not the world's. He speaks from a centered place, not a chaotic one. And because of that, his words carry weight. Because he speaks rarely, he is listened to deeply. Calm gives power to your voice. It makes every word matter. Remember, people forget what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. When you move through pain with grace, you leave a mark. When you carry loss with quiet strength, people take notice. You may never know how many others you help by simply being a lighthouse, steady, bright, unmoved by the storm. Stoicism is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming clear. Clear about your values. Clear about what you will and won't tolerate. Clear about your power. You are not powerless. You are not voiceless. You are calm by choice. And that choice changes everything. Let the world throw its chaos at you. Let it test your limits. But do not let it enter you. Do not let it shape your soul. The Stoic does not try to fix the entire world. He works on his own spirit. And in doing that, he becomes a light others can follow. Not loud, not angry, just steady. In your calm, you are free. Free from the chains of reactivity. Free from the approval of others. Free from the cycles of vengeance and bitterness. And in that freedom, you become something rare. You become dangerous to systems of injustice, to people who thrive on control, because they don't know what to do with someone they cannot provoke. So hold your calm, defend it, practice it. It is your revolution, your weapon, your gift. It may not earn applause, it may not trend, but it will outlast every outburst, every insult, every injustice thrown your way. In a world on fire, be the one who does not burn. That's not weakness. That's wisdom, and that is what it means to be truly stoic. Conclusion: the Stoic's way in an unjust world. This world will not always be fair. That's a truth we all must face. No matter how kind, skilled, or honest you are, injustice may still find its way to your door. People will judge you before they know you. Systems will overlook you, even when you've done everything right. And some moments will hurt more than words can carry. But in those very moments, when the weight of the world presses down hardest, that's where the Stoic path begins. Stoicism is not about pretending the pain doesn't exist. It's about choosing how to respond to it. It's about saying, yes, this hurts. Yes, this is unfair. But no will not define me. The Stoic does not run from discomfort. He meets it with open eyes and a steady heart. He does not react for reaction's sake. He responds with principle. He holds his center, even when the world spins wildly around him. In a world full of noise, the Stoic walks in silence, not because he has nothing to say, but because his voice is anchored in something deeper than outrage. His silence is not empty, it is full of reflection, full of strength, full of clarity. When he speaks with purpose. When he acts, it is not to prove himself. It is to live his values. The Stoic path is not an escape. It is a commitment to dignity, a commitment to self-respect, a commitment to being the kind of person who cannot be bought, broken, or swayed by every insult or injustice. It is not a life of ease, but it is a life of power. Quiet, steady, unshakable power. You do not need the world to treat you fairly to live well. That is the Stoic secret. You only need to treat yourself with respect. You only need to choose your responses carefully, to guard your mind fiercely, and to walk with purpose. In that, there is a freedom no system can take, no critic can tarnish, no injustice can dim. Let the world be unjust, but do not let it make you unjust. Let others lie, but do not let it make you dishonest. Let others belittle, but do not let it shrink your soul. You are not what they say you are. You are what you choose to be, moment after moment, under pressure, in silence, when no one is watching. Being stoic in an unjust world does not mean you are passive. It means you are powerful. It means you understand the greatest rebellion is not to shout, but to remain uncorrupted. It means you understand the greatest protest is to live well, love wisely, and lead by example. You will be disrespected. You will be misunderstood. But that does not change who you are. You are not here to be seen. You are here to see clearly, to walk with depth, to hold yourself to a standard that does not bend with public opinion. And in doing that, you become something the world desperately needs, someone who cannot be moved by fear, praise, or hatred. So when the world is unjust, stand up, not with clenched fists, but with a calm spirit, not with bitterness, but with purpose, not with rage, but with resolve. Let your presence be your protest. Let your steadiness be your strength. And let your life speak louder than any words ever could. That is the Stoic's way in an unjust world. And it begins with you. Right here. Right now.